Hey friend, and welcome back to the Choose to Think Inspirational podcast. Let me ask you something. Have you ever stepped onto a pickleball court, maybe for a league match or tournament, and even just rec play, and you felt your chest tighten? Maybe your thoughts start racing, your heart starts pounding, and suddenly every little thing feels so heavy. Like you may be saying things like, we have to win this, or don't mess up, or don't let your partner down, or don't let yourself down. Well, I've been there too. And anyone who's listened to the podcast long enough knows that I share a gazillion pickleball stories on the podcast. And I've done it way too many times. But today we're going to talk about something so interesting. And it's about why those feelings hit so hard. And more importantly, how you can calm your body down, reframe your thoughts, and actually enjoy the game again, even when the score isn't going your way. We're going to look at what's happening in your brain. That's my favorite thing. In your brain, when you feel this way, I'm going to apply the 7 R's to living your best thought life to real life pickleball examples. And you can just apply those on and off the court, by the way. And then how to deal with your emotions like fear, discouragement, worry, anxiety, and yet that frustration, say when your partner misses a shot. We're going to talk also about expectations, because sometimes what's really causing our emotions to spike isn't the score at all. It's just that gap between what we thought would happen and what is actually happening. And there's one more thing. I want you to stay tuned to the very end, because I'm going to give you 5 action items that people like EMTs, firefighters, and police officers actually use during the literal face of danger. It's what they actually do, and we can apply that to the pickleball court, because often we feel like we're in danger. We're not, because pickleball is not a dangerous situation, but sometimes our thoughts actually trick us into believing that it actually is. So we go into fight flight mode just in a split second, and you don't want to miss that concluding part of the show. So stick with me, because I've not only got a game plan for you today, but this game plan is going to bring peace back into your play. And I know you're raising your hand that you want that as much as I do. And you know what? While you're listening, if a friend pops into your mind who really needs this kind of encouragement on the pickleball court, maybe she plays, maybe she's just dealing with stress in her life, because it's not just about pickleball. We can apply it to any scenario that brings you anxiety. Just pause for 10 seconds, copy the episode, and send her the link quickly in a text. And maybe that's going to help her some today. Okay, so let's go into part 1, what's actually happening in your brain when the game heats up. I was a single mom for 20 years, and car trouble used to terrify me. Flat tires, mystery noises, unexpected repairs. I had to handle all of it myself, and it always felt stressful and expensive. Even now, when that reminder code comes on, my heart sinks. My brain says, urgent, urgent, urgent. This has to be fixed now. The amygdala, that's the fight-flight area of your brain, and it's screaming urgent. That's what happens just when I see the reminder code, because I think, okay, I need to get that taken care of right now. I need to get that off my list, even though the car is fine, because it's just a reminder. But that's a trigger for me. Your amygdala, that's the part of your brain that detects threat. It's not a threat necessarily, but it detects it as if it were a threat. And it kind of flashes a warning sign in your brain, like when your team falls behind several points. Maybe you make a couple of unforced errors and you're like, oh, why did I do that? Or maybe your opponent goes on a run. You know, pickleball is a game of streaks and runs anyway. Then what happens is your hippocampus, another part of your brain, which is like the car's memory log, it starts pulling up every past, quote, breakdown, every bad match that you've had, every nerve-wracking moment on the court, and he piles all those, or that section piles all those memories on top of the one that you're currently having. Then your hypothalamus is the system that reacts to that. It revs up your engine, flooding your body with adrenaline, speeding up your heart, tightening your chest, and making you feel like what is happening really is an emergency, even though, like the reminder code on the dashboard of your car, it's often not. Meanwhile, your prefrontal cortex, that is where we want to get to, right? We want to get out of the amygdala into the prefrontal cortex, because that's like like you when you're a calm driver. That's your calm driver brain, if you will. It's gripping the wheel, trying to remind you, hey, the car's fine. The game is fine. Let's focus on the road. But that flashing code and all those racing feelings, they make it hard to even hear the reason behind that. But now the question becomes, how do you play your best during a match? And how do you not let your amygdala hijack your emotions and your focus? Is there anything that you can do to help yourself not only survive a match, but thrive during it and walk off the court with a smile on your face, even if you lost? In other words, now that you know what's going on in your body, you know, the whole limbic system setup that's there, often those things you can't control, but is there a plan that you can develop and put into play to help you deal with the stress on the court and help you tamp down the parts of your brain screaming danger and instead engage that prefrontal cortex? Well, yes, there is. And I'm going to show you just how to do that. But quick disclosure, you must be willing to put in a bit of work first if you truly want to beat the yips on the court, as I've heard them called, the yips. You get the yips. I'm going to offer you a plan of attack or a strategy of sorts to help you analyze what's really going on when you're playing, because it is highly personal. In other words, what trips you up may not trip me up. What trips me up probably doesn't trip you up. This means that you're going to have to grab a pencil and paper and answer a few reflection questions. I've coined a process called the 7 R's for living your best thought life. And this process is what helps me personally shift from panic to peace, even when my brain is screaming, this is over, we're doomed. And I've watched it transform how others play too, and how others deal with situations in life as well. And here's the kicker, it's not just for pickleball, obviously. These 7 R's will help you handle stress, anxiety, and even relationship tension in your everyday life. I'm going to go over the first of the 7 R's in a little bit more detail and kind of summarize the last 3 of the 7 R's very quickly, just to kind of wrap it all up and tie it together. Be sure to stay tuned to the very end, because that's when we get into those practical action items that you can do. So step 1 is simply to recognize what you're thinking about on the court. Those precise thoughts that you're engaging, which flip on that switch of the amygdala. They're triggers for you to sound the alarm. Remember, it's just like the dashboard of your car when that reminder comes on or a light starts flashing. So I want you to think back to the last few matches that you've played when you were most troubled after the match was over. Try to really hone in on the exact thoughts you were thinking during that match or those matches, and then write those down. I want you to come up with 7 of them. And I'm going to call them toxic thoughts that you have been repeatedly engaging when you play ball. And this is where it really all starts. I just want you to notice the thought. And I'm going to give you a few examples of what you may be thinking. Yeah, I think that. Oh, yeah, that's me too. These are just a few examples. Maybe you're thinking thoughts like, we're going to lose. Or you're thinking, oh no, this isn't going our way. Maybe you're asking yourself, why do I keep hitting out balls? I keep hitting out balls, things like that. Why did I invite my parents to come watch? I'm playing horrible and they're making me nervous. Or maybe you think, I'm letting everyone down. Maybe you think, I'm letting my partner down. Maybe you get angry at your partner and you're thinking, oh my gosh, my partner keeps missing, so this is over now. Maybe you say, we never beat those opponents. Or maybe you say, we always beat those opponents. And then when you start getting behind, you're like, what's going on here? Because we always beat them and we're not now. So you get the picture here. I want you to identify those thoughts that really play interference with your focus. Remember, once that alarm sounds, once you see the reminder there and your limbic system is engaged, your emotions like fear will rise to the occasion. But you're going to learn how to combat your fears as well. So now let's say you paused. You wrote down those 7 thoughts, or maybe you're going to do that later. But now you have a list of thoughts that you're engaging on the court that are really, really bringing you down. So now you're going to want to resist them, right? You're going to want to push back against them somehow. So I want you to go back through your list and indicate, first of all, whether each thought is true or not true. For example, the thought, we're going to lose, well, it's not completely true. It's not conclusive of that as that moment. Even if they've got 10 and you've got 1, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to lose. People do come back. You may lose, but you may also win. So it's not really true to just say, oh, we're going to lose now. Maybe you have hit a ball or two out and it was flying out and you shouldn't have hit it. But you will need to resist imagining yourself hitting out balls because your brain will want to prove you right. And before you know it, you've hit another out ball. You need to resist those thoughts that don't help you to stay in the moment and to stay focused. And the resistance step is crucial in the heat of the moment. When you first notice that your thoughts are going astray, it's kind of like sledding down a snowy hill in Kentucky. The more you go down that hill, the pathway becomes more grooved and slicker, doesn't it? Just like becomes really slick, kind of wet. And it's easier and easier for each sled to follow the same exact path down the grooves and the bumps and all down the hill. Thoughts in your brain are exactly the same, those neural pathways and connections that you have. So you're going to need to resist those thoughts that are leading you in the wrong direction or that are not helpful to you, to keeping you in the moment. Once you recognize a thought that isn't helpful to you on the court, don't feed it. Resist thinking it. Put another thought in the neural pathway or the groove to interrupt the circuit and get you going in a different direction. And this is step 3 in the strategy. You're going to replace the unhelpful thought with a helpful one. It's really that simple. And let me tell you, I've got some examples for you from different sports because athletes do this all the time. For example, tennis. An unhelpful thought would be, I can't miss another serve or I'll lose this match. This thought only builds pressure and makes your body tense, often causing more mistakes. What's a good replacement thought here? Okay, you can say instead, every serve is a new opportunity. I focus on my form, not the outcome. Shifting focus to the process over the result is going to relax your body and improve. Here's a golfing example. I always choke on the back nine. I just know I'll mess up again. Or maybe you think, okay, we often lose once they start getting ahead or once they start running, something that's kind of an all or nothing type thinking. Well, this spikes your anxiety and triggers the amygdala. So what's a good replacement thought for that? It would be, this shot is not the last one. I play one hole, one swing, one breath at a time. Don't you find yourself saying that in pickleball? This ball. We're playing this point, one point at a time. Let's look at basketball. What if you said something like, that's unhelpful, we have to win this quarter or it's over for us? You know what? That creates panic, frantic energy, and poor decision making. And I want to tell you that very recently in a game of pickleball in a tournament, we had our opponents 8-4. And I looked at my partner, I said, you know what? We have to get these next 3 shots to close this game. And unwittingly, well, that's true because we were 8, they were 4. We needed just 3 points from the victory to let us go to the medal round. And because we were in a round robin at that moment. But of course, she knew that. We all can count. 8 + 3 is 11. Everyone knows that. But when I said that out loud, all that did was take our mind off of the ball right now. And it focused on the outcome, not the process in the middle of that. I even tell my students when I'm teaching Spanish, they say, I've got to get an A. I've got to get an A. My parents will kill me if I don't get an A. I'm on the dean's list. I got to get an A. They're so focused on the end result. And so I say, whoa, stop. Let's just focus on the process. What do you need to do to earn that A? What effort can you extend now between this moment and the time you take your final? What can you do to be best prepared for that? I encourage them in that way. And that's the same thing that's going on here. So when I automatically went to the outcome and I said, hey, we've got to have these last 3 points to close this game. Oh my goodness, that took us to the outcome, not to focusing on the ball. And it did create some panic because then we were a little bit more stressed and we weren't as focused. So a better thing to say is we play hard, one possession at a time, and we control what we can control. So it's like, let's just play hard. Let's play hard. Let's play this point to bring us back into the present moment. Any swimmers out there? What if you said, okay, now I can't catch up. They're too far ahead. You see all the swimmers beside you in the other lanes and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so far behind. There's no way that we can catch up here. have you seen those videos on YouTube where the little girl, the skaters, they're skating and the little girl at the very beginning falls. She gets back up and she's behind like so far behind, but then gradually she's just catching up until she wins the thing, even though she was astronomically behind. The same is true in pickleball. If you're engaging thoughts like, I can't catch up, they're far too ahead, that fixates on others. It's going to drain your mental energy, and it can make an athlete like you give up before the race is over. So instead of saying something like that, try, I swim my lane, my pace, and I finish strong. And in pickleball, it's no, I'm going to play my game. We're going to focus now on this ball. We're going to finish as strong as we can. And here's the last analogy. It's like being a football quarterback. If that quarterback constantly were saying, if I throw another interception, I'll let my team down and lose the game. You see, that's focusing on that error, isn't it? Which is going to only incite the amygdala and that fight, flight, freeze kind of response that your body's going to engage at that time, because fear of failure narrows your focus and it increases your errors. So instead you can say, hey, my job is to read the defense and make the best decision on this play. Pickleball is so fast, and you are making lightning fast decisions along the way. The key to clutch performance is focusing only on the current play, not the score, not the pressure that you feel. Just play the play, just hit the ball, just play your game kind of thing. Well, in all of these cases, these athletes recognize what they're thinking. They resist the toxic thoughts and replace them with truth-filled, energized, life-giving thoughts instead. And you can do this too on the pickleball court. Your value is not tied to the score. Sometimes I think it is. I'm trying to prove myself to others. That's not my value though. And I know that, but I don't really apply that in my life sometimes. You can play free because you are dearly loved by your creator, by God. God can use both wins and losses to grow you in his love, to increase your faith, and to help you change, to be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then the fourth R here in the series is repeat this process. The recognizing, resisting, and replacing, those first three little action items, you're going to repeat that for 60 days. Because neuroscience tells us that it takes about 60 days of consistent repetition to rewire those thought patterns. An Olympic runner once said, I train my mind daily, just like I train my body, because both determine how I run my race. What you are repeating in this process is all those replacement thoughts. And maybe you have 7 of them. That's what I'm challenging you to find. And this is how you train your brain before you play. Rec play, tournament play, open play, no matter. You name it. And you do this daily. So you're going to repeat those 7 thoughts daily so that they become easier to repeat in the heat of the moment. Because what will actually happen in your brain is that you're going to short circuit that amygdala now. As it detects a possible threat, you will say, no way to camping out with old memories and all those mess ups that your hippocampus has recorded. And you learn to calm down your body physically as the thalamus or hypothalamus revs your engines, sending adrenaline and cortisol racing through your body. Now, I know that all these reactions are initially somewhat beyond your control. They're just kind of happening, right? But ultimately, you can influence them. When you repeat those life-giving thoughts daily, essentially, you are training your brain to more easily shift gears to your prefrontal cortex. And in my car reminder system analogy, the prefrontal cortex is that logical, calm driver brain. It's gripping the wheel, trying to remind you that the car's fine, let's focus on the road. And in pickleball, it's telling you the game is fine, just focus on the ball or this point only. These thoughts guard your desire for stability, safety, belonging, and control, right? Those are all the things that you want, even in a pickleball match. Okay, so where are we right now? In the mental drill that I am providing for you, you will drill these things. Recognize what you're thinking about the last game you played and record those thoughts. Try to come up with about 7. Create resistance in those thought patterns, those repeated thoughts, by replacing them with thoughts that are logical, true, and calming to your heart. Repeat these 7 new replacement thoughts daily as a part of your mindset practice drills. And let's face it, we would all prefer to play a game of pickleball than drill, right? It's much more fun to play in a game. It's more exciting. Drilling is tedious, time-consuming, and not nearly as fun as playing in the match. But most athletes, if not all of them, will tell you hands down that games are not only won on the court, but they're won in your mindset. And that means that you should be drilling and practicing probably twice as much as you are playing each week if you truly want to improve in pickleball. You might want to jot down those 7 replacement thoughts on a note card. Keep them in your wallet. Put them on your bathroom mirror. Tape them on the dashboard in your car and repeat them over and over and over again for 60 days. They're very personal to you and what you need to hear. Those are like fighting words that you're after. You may be amazed at your progress after 60 days. And if you'll do that for 2 months, I want to know. Would you shoot me an email at choosetothink@gmail.com and let me know how this is working for you? So after you've done the first 4 R's, recognizing, resisting, replacing, and repeating, you will naturally begin to experience the last 3. Your mind starts to renew, as Romans 12:2 promises, and with each choice to speak God's truth or a truth-filled, energizing thought, you're literally rewiring your brain toward peace. And that shift makes it easier to rely on the Holy Spirit, because peace isn't something we can force, is it? It's His fruit. That's from Galatians 5:22. If you're a Christ follower, this is a quick courtside prayer that you can make. Lord, help me compete hard and trust you with an outcome. It's very simple, very short. And from there, you can truly rest, knowing, as Exodus 14:14 says, the Lord will fight for you. You need to just be still. Even in losses, you're not truly losing, because God is shaping your character and your heart. It's like Jesus is waiting for you over at the fence after the match. And I kind of picture him, and I say, Jesus at the fence, because he's watching me. He's proud of you and your effort, not because of your scores, okay? But because you trusted him, stayed present, and let him grow you. He's letting you grow you through this game. But keep holding on, because now we're going to briefly talk about the silent stress trigger called expectations. And then I'm going to give you those 5 ninja tips that you can do during a match, physical action items that you can do. Okay, because I definitely want to discuss, before we go to the mindset tools, those 5 tips, we need to talk about expectations, because they're kind of like, out of the blue, you have one thought going, and then many of us, myself included, we get tripped up with expectations. Because have you ever got into a match thinking, oh, this should be easy. They're the lower seed. They didn't win any in the round robin. We've beaten players like this a dozen times. This game is ours. You ever thought that? And then bear up 7-3, and suddenly you're just not frustrated. You're panicked. Not even because of the score itself, but because this wasn't supposed to happen, right? It's just like when I just sit down at my computer in the morning. Okay, what am I expecting to happen? I'm going to turn it on, and then I'm going to just start working on my coffee, and I'm going to knock out some work. And sometimes I sit down and I turn it on, but the screen doesn't go on because of an HDMI cord or something like that. And I'm like, ugh. So I get instantly upset or agitated or frustrated because I just expected something to be really, really, really simple. But on the court, these faulty expectations can really make you tighten up and play scared or even lose focus altogether. You're no longer reacting to reality. You're just reacting to the gap between what you thought would happen and what's actually happening. Well, here's the truth, and pro players will tell you this: never underestimate your opponent. Not because you should fear them, but because it keeps you present and prepared. Assuming this it's going to be an easy win is going to make your brain lazy, your feet heavy, and your frustration literally skyrocket when it's not easy. I want to tell you a story. My husband Jim and I were playing in a tournament in Louisville. I don't know, this has been a couple of years ago. And we looked at our opponents and we're like, oh my gosh, we got this. Because the guy, first of all, he had on a big long brace on his knee. So he kind of hobbled. It was almost like he was peg leg-ish. I mean, he couldn't even bend it. He was just kind of dragging that whole leg. And then he had on like this big bandana, but it's like he had one patch over an eye. So he's like one-eyed, and he probably even had a brace on his arm. So he looked like he was really going to struggle on the court. And we sized him up. He was kind of tall and heavy, but his partner was very short and heavy. And we thought, okay, she's probably not going to be able to move very well. The combination of this really tall guy, giant, with all these braces and gear and patches and, just burly looking guy. And then this little short, squat partner. And we I mean, I'm sorry to say it. I guess it is judgmental, isn't it? Because we were judging them as opponents and we thought, we got this. There is no way we're going to lose to this team. What do you think happened? They kicked our honeys is what happened. We totally underestimated how they could move. I mean, they neither one moved well, but boy, when they did get to the ball, it was precise and it was a put away. And Jim and I were like, what is happening here? Because it was so astounding. The reality and then our expectations and the reality, there was a big gap between them. And so suddenly we felt frustrated, angry, upset with ourselves, incredulous that this was happening. The point of all of this is that it trips you up sometimes if you just think, oh, we got this. Maybe you play these folks because you know them. You're in a tournament, though, in another city even, but you play them all the time back home at your home court, like the pickleball paddock, a little plug in there for them. And you play them all the time in rec and open play, and you beat them all the time. Maybe one time out of 50 they'll win, or 100 they'll win. And then you're in this tournament and you underestimate them. We got them, we play them all the time. Oh boy, you may get a rude awakening. Anyway, we've got to think about what are healthy expectations instead. So a healthy expectation is to expect the unexpected. Every opponent can surprise you, and every game can turn on a dime. So expect to work, not to win. Expect to work, not to win. I got to say that again. Expect to work, not to win. Wins are never handed to you. And expect growth over perfection. Success is learning, adjusting, staying steady. It's not a flawless scoreboard. And by the way, if any of those 7 thoughts you identified were about expectations, you might try engaging these types of thoughts instead. Like, every team is here to compete. My goal is to play my best, 1 point at a time, no matter what. I don't have to win for this to be worth it. I just need to give my best effort. So remember, you are planning, you are preparing, and you are prepping, and you are drilling daily. I want you to show up and do the drills by focusing on those 7 replacement thoughts. Hold your expectations really loosely. And always remember that God is doing a deep work in your heart and your soul. He loves seeing you surrender the pride from winning and that incessant need to prove that you are capable of winning. I think that's a big problem for me. You know, you've heard it that if you pray for patience, for example, God's going to create plenty of scenarios in your life to test you in that area of being patient. It's the same here. If you want the ultimate victory over people pleasing, chasing after external validation, proving your worth, God will allow everything, including pickleball, to be the spark that removes the evil motivations from your heart. And I don't mean that in a really like a daunting kind of way, because I've never seen victory over these types of things come quickly. And we don't got to guilt ourselves because it's pickleball. It's a long process. It's a chipping away. It's a wrestling match that goes on all night long, just like when Jacob wrestled with the angel of the Lord. But in the end, it's really going to be worth it because you're going to find the healing that you're genuinely after. Your best bet is to plan, prepare, and show up. This is going to keep your emotions calm and your brain clear. And now to conclude, to move to our last part, I want to give you those 5 ninja tips, the actual practical application items that you could do during the game to help turn off your amygdala and better engage your prefrontal cortex. You can call these reset tips if you like. You know how in pickleball you're in the transition zone, you've got to learn how to reset. That's what you're doing here with your mind. And these are things that you can actually do during the game to help you reset. You've probably heard some of them before, I'm quite certain, but I just want to give you a few extra reminders on those. One of those is box breathing, like the 4-4-4 method. You inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, and then hold for 4. It's really easy. It's just the box breathing method. And sometimes if you don't even have time to think about that, just do deep breathing. I do that a lot on the court. You're going to see me do that a ton. You can even do it discreetly between points or while you're waiting for the serve, because it really does slow your heart rate down and signals to your brain that you're safe. So that's a little ninja tip to get you out of the amygdala, which is fight or flight, like I'm not safe. And instead it's telling your brain, no, I'm this is a pickleball game. I'm actually quite safe here. Okay. And by the way, firefighters use this to keep their prefrontal cortex, quote, online. I wanted to look up some some of the folks that were really in danger and how they responded. And so I tied in some of those professions into this last little ninja section of the podcast episode. So the second thing you could do is label the feeling. In other words, you name it to tame it. You heard that? Name it to tame it. I love that. And that's something I need to do a little bit more on the court. You can tell yourself, wait a minute, this is just adrenaline. I feel anxious. That's naming the feeling, but I'm okay. I feel anxious. I'm okay. You name it, you claim it, and then just by simply naming the emotion, it's going to activate the thinking brain, the calm driver there at the wheel saying, the car's going to be just fine for a lot longer. I got plenty more miles on this car before I have to get an oil change. It's just fine. That's what you're doing when you name it and claim it. That's just adrenaline. I'm feeling anxious. I'm going to be okay. So that quiet downs the amygdala again. And the EMTs are taught to state the stressor. And they may say something like, my heart's racing because the alarm went off, to keep the perspective. They tell themselves why they're having that. What's going on there? Oh, this is, my heart's racing. I heard the alarm. That's all. That helps them to keep perspective. So third tip is you can ground yourself with a sensory cue. I used to keep rubber bands on my arm and I would flick them in order to bring me back to the moment. So what you can do is you can look at the ball. You can feel the paddle grip. You can squeeze and not squeeze. You can plant your feet and notice the court under your feet. You can put that rubber band on your wrist and snap it. You can jump up and down. You see a lot of the players will actually jump up and down. They're moving. You can do a few deep knee bends, anything to engage the muscles to make you feel alive in the moment and present. This pulls you back into the present moment instead of spiraling into all the what if we lose, what if we lose. Number 4, you can speak a centering cue or a scripture to anchor your thoughts. Find something that's really short that works for you, and you can repeat it in the heat of the moment. You can use something short, some little quick centering cue or a scripture, something that's going to help anchor your thoughts. You can say something like, 1 point at a time, be still, God is with me, Jesus at the fence, this ball, I'm safe, just something like that to help you, because keeping it short is going to keep your brain from getting lost in overthinking. And okay, the last one is to reset your posture. Okay, this is a big one. Push your shoulders back. Stand up straight. Don't be slumping down. Get in your squat ready position, yes, and bend your knees, but make sure when you turn around or you go pick up a ball, you don't kick the ball and smack your leg, and all those things are not helpful. You want to have body language that presents with confidence. So straighten your shoulders, stand up, breathe. You can roll your shoulders back, loosen your jaw a little bit. If you've just been so nasty or scowly with your face, go like this. Just force a small smile. You'll see me doing that. Anybody else seeing? If I'm smiling, that means I'm trying so hard to trick my brain into thinking that I'm not in danger or anything. And I want to reduce the tension that I may have and just to restore the natural flow and the ease and the fun in playing, because it's just a little physical shift. I've got this book that I love, and it's called How to Be a Genius. I was reading a little bit ago about winning and losing, and there was one thing about confidence, because some of what we're talking about, especially when you put your shoulders back, would be confidence on the court. And I thought this was so curious. Confidence is vital to winning, and this has been proved by research. In one study, 24 people had their arms strength tested before an arm wrestling match. The researchers deceived the competitors into believing that the weaker participants were the stronger ones. Think about that. And in 10 out of 12 contests, the weaker opponents or contestants, wrestlers, won. Okay, so the confidence that you can exude is not only good for you, but it presents very, very nicely. I want to read what they say about setting goals. Also, to get anywhere, you need to set yourself some goals, but don't go for the long-term goal of being the champion. You need short-term personal targets that you can try to hit every day. If you're a cyclist, for example, your short-term goal could be to achieve a faster time than before, regardless of who wins the race. This will increase your confidence. So my friend Sarah and I, my doubles partner and I, we try to close games in, once we get to 10, we try to close the game in fewer than 5 attempts. That's just a personal goal that we have. So you can set little teeny goals to help you as you go. Now, what happens when you lose focus? Losing your temper, if you lose a point, will not help you win the next one. In fact, it will throw off your concentration. That's why if you, oh, Victoria, what are you thinking? Smack, or all that kind of stuff, that is not good. You have to control your emotions and focus on the future. Use a mental routine to refocus when something goes wrong. Try conjuring up an image of a role model and ask yourself, how would Anna Lee act? Now, we do know that she'll say, fight, fight, fight. You remember her saying that on the pickleball court? It was very dramatic and very helpful in that. She gave herself marching orders there. I don't think we would see our hero, your pickleball hero, throwing a temper tantrum. I don't think you're going to see that. Some competitors try to win by putting their opponents off their stroke. They might boast that they are going to beat you or try to distract you by fiddling with shoelaces. Don't go for it. Don't fall for it. If someone tries to make you feel small, focus on your own successes. And if he or she tries to distract you, ignore the person. Well, we have this little saying. I remember playing with my friends back in Frankfurt, and anytime we would compliment a guy, our opponents, then it seems like they wouldn't miss the next ball. Like if they were serving or something, I mean, it was so funny. And so like Jim would be serving and I'm playing opposite of him as opponent. I'm like, honey, you're so handsome. Or I love your new shoes. Or your paddle is amazing. And so he would invariably, that's just a way to mess with your opponents and, do smack talking and kind of chide someone and kid them. Well, if you're on the other end of that, don't fall for it. Just try to keep your focus instead. They also talk about visualization. You can get in the right frame of mind by recalling the sensation of success. Imagine yourself accepting the prize for first place. It feels good. This feeling can help you win. Also, before the event, visualize yourself moving smoothly through the activity, and you're more likely to do it smoothly when it actually comes. So, we don't want to focus too much on winning, but I think athletes do that. They have that greater goal in mind, but during the game, they're really focused on the moment and on the ball and on the point. So I know this has been a lot of information. If you'd like to get your hands on the 7 R's for living your best thought life, just as a reminder, it's a free one-page printable, an infographic. It's my ministry's signature download. Please tap the link in the show notes. It's all yours. And remember that you are thinking all the time. So if you're anxious or stressed, you can still apply those 7 R's to those areas of your life as well. If you want to dive even deeper, you can grab this little pickleball devotional, Pickleball Passion. It's a marriage devotional, 21 days to a strong connection on and off the court. Sometimes it's really hard to play with your spouse as your partner. It's tricky. And yet we know even God will work through that to bring both of you closer together. And your identity is not a win or a loss. Your identity is in Christ. And that's such a hard thing to remember sometimes, even in pickleball. But when you practice these 7 R's, when you do a few of these little ninja tips, and remember that some of this is just physiological things that are happening, like lightning fast in your brain. It's going so fast, but yet you can rewire. Your brain is plastic, it's moldable, and you can rewire the circuitry there. That's the best news ever. God tells you to take every thought captive. And when you put those 7 R's into play, that's what you're doing. You're saying, okay, I'm going to focus on 7 thoughts on the pickleball court, and I'm going to take those thoughts captive. I'm not going to say those thoughts anymore. I'm going to say these thoughts instead. And then you've built your strategy. You've got a little framework now that you can work with every day to affirm. And that's how you're going to build those new neural pathways, through that repetition. It only takes a couple months to do that. And I think you're going to find amazing and wonderful results on the pickleball court or any other area in your life for that reason. You're going to play free, you're going to enjoy the game again, and you're going to reflect God on the court. Shine the light for Christ on the court so that your heart can rest, your mind is really steady, and your game kind of feels like worship, not worry. And I know you want that. I love you so much. Thank you for tuning in. And if you enjoyed the episode, please share it with a friend. Would love to have you do that. Get the word out, because there are other pickleballers just like you who might be encouraged by this message. God bless you.